Are there any matadors in the house tonight? That's what I'm talking about. What a glorious day it was today, and what a fabulous evening this has been. Completely overwhelming. I would like to thank President Harrison, Carlos and the Alumni Association, and Rob Gonzalez, who concluded I was worthy of this honor. But I have to say I was stunned when Rob first suggested it, as he will attest to. I said, no one who knows me would want to pay to come have dinner there, at which I was being honored. I couldn't imagine I'd done anything that deserved such a thing. So thank you, Shigemi and Jim, for letting me borrow your friends this evening. You know, the best part of this experience has been the reflections it has triggered. So many good times, so many good friends, lessons learned, laughs shared, and a few tears. But all in all, 38 wonderful years since I first set foot on CSUN. Still, I was left with the question, what did others see in me that caused them to conclude that I should be standing here? In other words, how did this happen to me? My answer has two parts. First, I've had help from and guidance from a lot of great people, beginning with my mother, as you heard a little bit about from Dr. Harrison. She was the single most influential person in my life. Through her struggle and sacrifice, she made it possible for my siblings and myself to have better lives. Lecturing wasn't her style, and as a single mother, she didn't have time for it. But we learned all we needed to learn to be successful in life by watching her example. Work hard, be graceful, believe in yourself, stick together. That's my cheering section back there, sticking together with me. Life isn't always fair. Don't complain, don't quit, and don't embarrass me. Wait. Don't embarrass me by wasting the sacrifice that has been made for you. She also told us we were smart, and there was no excuse for us not to do well in school. And she set a great example. She was always studying. Most people read, my mom studied. First, to advance her career so she can take better care of us, and then ultimately to pursue her passion for religion. She began her career as a clerk, but as you heard, she became the Reverend Dr. Geneva Williams. Now, her example was backed up by some good old-fashioned discipline. But the thing that stung most to me and stuck with me was when she would say, Robert, that's not right. You see, that's not right suggests there's a higher standard than simply not being wrong. It suggests there's more that is required than not being involved in whatever might have been wrong or just being passive and standing aside. It is an affirmative duty. It also says that on those occasions, and we all have them when we fall short, we have to get up and try harder again the next time. So thank you, Mama, for that fine launch for myself and my siblings. We love you and we miss you. I realize in preparing for these remarks this evening that I actually frequently, as you can probably tell, talk about my mother and how important she was to me. And I realize I don't talk enough about the person who is most important in my life, and that's my wife, Joy. And of course, Robert, that's not right. So this is me trying to do better the next time. It is cliche to say one spouse is better than one, I guess it is. In this case, it's overwhelmingly true. All my brothers and sisters are gathered back there, and you can ask them. They have told me, if anything ever happens, they're keeping Joy, and I gotta go. So baby, in the words of the delightfully named rapper Fabulous, and the engineers will really appreciate this, I was a movement by myself. We are a force when we're together. I was doing good all by myself. But for 34 years, you have made me better. I love you. Oh, that was a private moment. I'm sorry. There are other people here, including my lovely daughters, Maria, Miranda, Jessica, who all took time from a demanding college schedule to be with all of us here tonight. And I thank them for that and for just being so joyful in our lives. Next, I'd like to thank a host of teachers and professors who took interest in me. Chief among them are Dr. Ray Landis, and who is the visionary creator of the Minority Engineering Program, and his partner at MEP, Rick Ainsworth, both of whom are here with us this evening. The two of them made CSUN the right home for me and made engineering a possibility for literally thousands of minority students at CSUN and across the nation. What Dr. Ray did here should be celebrated. He's a national treasure, and he is a man with the audacity to try to give me life advice. And for that, he is sort of my surrogate father and is sitting with me at my table this evening. I thank him and Kathy for taking time out of their schedule to join us here this evening. Similarly with Rick, who was the very first person that I shared my ambitions with, and he assured me that all was possible from CSUN. And I think as you hear these stories tonight, and doubtless the stories you heard before this evening, we all know in this room that all is possible from CSUN. So sincerely again, thank you, Rick and Ray. I also again want to thank all my siblings who are all here this evening, our extended family, and my many colleagues and friends, some of whom have traveled great distances, DC, New York, and some of whom have traveled over great periods of time, including a friend of mine who I've known since I was 12 years old to be here this evening. Most of whom were surprised. As I mentioned earlier, I didn't think anyone would want to come. And there are so many others to thank on whose shoulders I stand here this evening, like the great Al Richardson, who is a founder of the LA Council of Black Professional Engineers, or Dean Radcliffe, who was in charge of the School of Engineering when I was here, who, by the way, this evening could use your prayers. But the last person I'd like to thank by name is Governor Pat Brown. See, like most people, there is a bit of luck in my story. And by luck, I don't mean random chance. I mean that definition of luck when preparation meets opportunity. And Governor Brown, during his term as governor, had the vision and leadership to make free higher education a reality, without which I would not be here. It made it possible for a black child born to a single mother in the turbulent 1960s to have opportunity that would match his talent and the freedom that was promised through that struggle. So thank you, Governor Brown. And this leads me to part two of my response as to how I got here. It requires just a little context, and I know the hour is drawing late, so I'll just hit the treetops. But you see, I was born at County USC Hospital in the early 1960s. The 1960s, for most of this crowd, needs no further introduction. My primary and secondary education was courtesy of LA's public school system. It took place against the backdrop of assassination, presidential resignation, stagflation, forced integration, and affirmative action retaliation. My time at CSUN encompassed stagflation that turned to epic inflation. Anybody remember 20% interest rates? Gas lines, hostage crisis, and national humiliation. And in my view, the beginning of national self-doubt. So what's my point? My point is my life is the American dream, and CSUN played a vital role in realizing that dream. I was guessing, but now having listened to the comments of others, I know that's a sentiment that's shared throughout this room. My dream was born before I arrived at CSUN, but CSUN is a place where it began to take flight, where I took control. Prior to college, your path is really defined by someone else and prescribed by law. The range of challenge and opportunity that you have in that, at least back in those days, I think my kids had a little bit more flexibility, but the range of challenge back then was pretty narrow. And for me, there was active discouragement. And my friend from Craig Stoker from junior high school on will testify. It included a boys' vice principal who thought I was smart, as in smart Alec, and told me I'd be dead by the time I was 20. Northridge flipped the script. It gave me a chance to be in control. There was certainly curiosity as to whether I was for real, and unfortunately in those days, there was palpable doubt as to whether we belonged in the engineering program. But mostly, there was opportunity and challenge. Let's see how you do in math 150, chem 101, physics 220, engineering 240. Then we'll know. Well, soon the curiosity turned into cheerleading. Unfortunately for me, the challenge didn't stop. Paraphrasing one of my colleagues, CSUN was my ladder of opportunity. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here this evening to tell you that the American dream is still possible, but it needs our help. Hopefully what the walk down memory lane illustrated is that the American dream was never conceived in idyllic situations. In fact, it's always been hard. Just ask the Pilgrims. Another singer-philosopher that speaks to me is Luther Vandross, and he said of Superman, "Superman flies high in the sky because we believe he can." So too it is with America and the American dream. Both exist because individuals are willing to work hard to make their dreams come true. And because those individuals collectively are willing to invest in, sacrifice for, and sometimes die for their belief in our common destiny. The results at the individual and the collective level aren't always perfect. They rarely are. But when they work, when the American dream works, when America works, it is worthy of being called great. And when it works, it is appropriate that we take a moment, as we do this evening, to note and celebrate the fruit of these powerful forces. Tomorrow, when we return to our daily lives, we must bear in mind that the American dream is not a guarantee. It is not an entitlement, granted or denied by accident of birth. If it ceases to be possible, that's on us. No one can take it away from us. Like freshman Robert Taylor, our destiny is in our hands. And we each have our own Reverend Geneva to answer to, or as she is more commonly referred to, history. Do the work or not. Invest in opportunity or not. Create opportunity for others or not. Believe in our common destiny or not. The choice is ours. The standard is high. The obligation is affirmative. I know the course that the Matadors and those who share our spirit will take. CSUN, continue rising and shining, illuminating a brighter and ever brighter destiny for all to see through dreams realized daily. I am proud to be among your number, and I humbly accept this award. Thank you, and good night.